70 to 80 plants.
That might sound crazy. Get ready to discover the secrets of our bountiful garden. In this video, we're sharing how we grow and use an impressive variety of vegetables, from juicy cherry tomatoes to mouth-watering peppers, all while making the most of our limited space. We'll even tabulate the number of plants needed to sustain our two-person household with delicious food year-round. So if you're ready to be amazed at the abundance that can come from a little bit of dirt and a lot of love, buckle up and join us.
It was slow going at first. Our property is mainly forest, and what is cleared is clay and rock, completely stripped of all the topsoil that was here.
So this is what we're dealing with when we're dealing with digging at this place. Every 2 inches is a massive rock just to plant 7 trees.
So we had to bring in soil, and we had to start making a lot of compost. And we had to make sure we had access to running water and organize the beds to maximize the sunlight here.
We had a lot to do, but we're determined to make it work. We knew that if we could grow even a fraction of the food we ate, it would be worth it. And as we work in our garden, we feel more connected to the land, to the seasons, and to the food we eat. We are no longer just consumers, but active participants in the food system. We know where our food comes from, how it was grown, and how it was prepared. Our garden may not be perfect, but it is ours, and it's a reflection of our hard work, our dedication, and our love for good food.
Our garden is full of plants that we eat throughout the entire growing season, which we like to consider our eat now harvest. But the majority of our harvest will actually be preserved to get used through these colder months, or as we call it, our eat later harvest. Many garden planners out there only take into account the eat now category, which in our opinion leads people to severely underestimate how many plants they actually need to grow to sustain themselves for a full year.
To give you an idea of just how much food we can grow and preserve, we will tell you how many plants are needed to sustain the 2 of us for a full year. It's amazing to see how much food we can produce in a relatively small growing area. We hope that this inspires you to grow your own food.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
There's nothing better.
Our garden is full of fast-growing plants that we can harvest and use in our meals right away, along with slower growing varieties that will be available to us later in the season to keep us in fresh produce for the full growing season. Here are a few plants that we grow mainly for the purposes of eating fresh throughout the growing season. So first, there's radish. These root vegetables are one of the fastest growing crops you can grow in your garden. They can be ready to harvest in as little as 25 days after planting. We continue to plant radishes as long as the weather is cool enough.
And you can eat every part of the radish plant.
These radish, we also let them go to seed. Those seed pods actually are quite tasty. Put those on salad, eat them as is. Oh, one of the best parts is the seed pods.
Yeah, the seed pods. The leaves are delicious. Anyways.
Then there's lettuce. Leafy greens like lettuce can be harvested as early as 3 weeks after planting. Cut the outer leaves and let the inner ones grow. Then there's snap peas. These are great early season addition to salads or to eat right off the plant. Or green onions. These can be harvested when the tops are about 6 inches tall, so usually only around 40 to 60 days after planting. And we scatter our onions throughout the bed so they barely take up any space. Then there's cherry tomatoes. While they do not grow as fast as these other plants, they will be the first of your tomatoes to ripen, and they are great in salads or really just about anything. And we can't forget about the slicing tomatoes, which we use for sandwiches and salads. Other vegetables that we incorporate fresh into our diet throughout the growing season include herbs, which are great for adding flavor to salads and other dishes, wax and green beans, which make great side dishes or just snacked on raw, kale and chard, which we can saute or add to coleslaw for a healthy and nutrient-packed meal, carrots and turnips and peppers, both sweet and spicy, all make great additions to our meals throughout the summer. And then there's celery.
We grow a lot of celery every year. Chop it up and freeze it, and we dehydrate the leaves to make celery powder and celery salt,
which we use for just about everything. Those of you that don't like celery, and you know who you are, that is because you haven't tasted this celery. It is full of flavor, not water.
And crunch.
Yes. And as much as we love to eat fresh produce throughout the growing season, we know that we can't rely on it to sustain us throughout the year. That is why we plant enough of everything so that we have enough to preserve and enjoy in the colder months.
We make tomato paste and stewed tomatoes that we use in homemade pasta sauces, stews, curries, chili. We make salsa that we can serve with chips or add to our tacos.
And let's not forget about our chili sauce. That is a beautiful family recipe that we just love to add. It's just like ketchup, we add it to everything. We also make pickles of all sorts, bread and butter pickles, dill pickles, and pickled wax beans and beets. We can sauerkraut and coleslaw and hot sauce and coyote crack, which is a sweet and spicy topping that we put on everything. Then there is the canned pumpkin or plum sauce, which we use as a dipping sauce for finger foods.
And there aren't even any plums in it.
No plums.
No plums. We also grow a bunch of vegetables that we can store, dehydrate, or freeze. These vegetables include cauliflower, kale, Swiss chard, potatoes, squash, carrots, turnips, peppers, beans, onions. By preserving our harvest in these ways, we're able to enjoy homegrown produce the full year round. We love experimenting with different preservation methods and finding new ways to use the food we grow. It also connects us to our family's traditions and recipes, even some that were almost completely lost and forgotten.
Okay, so now that you have a bit of context about what we use our vegetables for, let's get into the math. Here are the basics that we plant every year. Cauliflower.
20 plants.
Broccoli.
20 plants.
Kale.
At least 12 plants.
Chard.
At least 12 plants.
Celery.
15 to 20 plants.
Potatoes.
We'll plant 15 pounds, maybe 20 pounds, and we'll expect a yield of 70 to 120 pounds.
Onions.
100 to 150 plants.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Wax beans.
60 to 80 plants.
Green beans.
60 plants.
Dried beans.
20 to 40 plants.
Cilantro.
10 to 12 plants.
Basil.
30 to 40 plants.
Dill.
20 to 30 plants.
Sweet peppers.
20 to 30 plants.
Hot peppers.
70 to 80 plants.
That might sound crazy, but we make a lot of hot sauce.
Yes.
Okay, then Roma and paste tomatoes.
50 to 70 plants.
Slicing tomatoes.
15 to 20 plants.
And that isn't only used for slicing. We make that stuff in our canned goods as well.
Yep.
And cherry tomatoes.
10 to 15 plants, and that also goes into all of our canned stuff. Any of our excess tomatoes get used just like any other tomato in our canned stuff.
Like they should be. Pumpkins.
4 to 5 plants.
Winter squash.
3 to 5 plants.
Summer squash.
5 to 10 plants. So that's like zucchini, green, yellow, any type of zucchini, summer squash. And cucumbers, we're looking at about 20 plants in around there. That gets us enough to can up all the pickles we need.
And then there's the vegetables that we sow directly into the garden. These are harder to say like exact number of plants, so we'll tell you about like basically an area that we plant. So first there's carrots.
And we'll do 2 roughly 6-foot rows.
Turnips.
1 6-foot row.
Lettuce.
We have 3 beds, each is about 3 feet by 3 feet.
Growing our own food has become a vital part of our lives. It's not just about the satisfaction of seeing something grow from a teeny tiny seed to a mature plant, but also about the joy of being able to nourish ourselves with fresh, delicious produce. We no longer have to rely solely on the grocery store for our food needs. We've shown you a glimpse of the plants we grow, both for eat now and eat later purposes. And as promised, we've tabulated the number of plants needed to do so. It's truly amazing to see how much food we can produce from a relatively small space. It makes us feel more connected with family traditions and to the earth. We hope that our story has inspired you to start your own garden. No matter how big or small, who knows, you might just discover a new passion and a way of life. Thanks for joining us on this journey. So why don't you end it?
Because it's over.